Good evening and welcome. You're watching this special broadcast on NDTV 24/7. I'm Padmaja Joshi, with me my colleague Shivaru.
Incredible day, an incredible image coming in from Tianjin in China. The interpretations, the analysis are seriously exploding because this handshake that we saw in China today represents nearly half of the world's population. India and China have pledged to be partners as they met on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit today, as the two nations committed to taking their ties forward. And Padmaja, I'm not so sure, with all the hype over the handshake, but it's good news. That's one thing we can agree on.
Trust but verify.
But there is so much politics already. It's perhaps something that we should have expected, really, the politics of what really happened. But as the two nations committed to taking their ties forward, the Chinese president even said that it's vital to be friends and both the dragon and the elephant must come together. But this display of bonhomie seems to have not gone down well with the opposition in India. As I was walking into the studio with Padmaja just now, there's been this explosion of tweets, attacks, snipes, barbs. We've come to normalize it. We are a democracy.
Color me surprised.
Yeah. Seriously.
You've got such a big ticket meeting happening in China, and you've got a very different shade of politics happening back home. It's almost shaped like a case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah. When China was aggressive, they were like, oh, you have surrendered before China. Now that China is trying to extend a hand of friendship, apparently we have again surrendered before China. So if they're aggressive, we've surrendered. If they are trying to be friendly, we have again surrendered. What did the Congress say? They said that 2020 Galwan clash happened. The Prime Minister seems to have forgotten all about it. Why isn't there any justice for our soldiers who lost their lives in that clash? Congress also said that for the Prime Minister, his friends keep changing. First it was Donald Trump, now it's Xi Jinping. Not just the Congress, Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav has also asked for a clarification on whether India's total land mass has decreased after the Chinese occupation. The DMK cited Nehru to take a dig at the Prime Minister. Ironic, considering that the opposition usually has a problem with Nehru ji being referenced. DMK claimed that even as the Prime Minister threatened China with Lalak, China has in return given a Lal welcome to the Prime Minister.
The questions and the requests for accountability and clarifications as far as India and China are always welcome, because we are a democracy and these are difficult and necessary questions that must be asked. But the tone, the tenor, the manner in which these snipes are being taken while the Prime Minister is in China not only smacks, in my view, of a certain degree of political naivety and maybe even juvenility, but also hypocrisy. Because let's face it, dispensation after dispensation in this country have faced territorial aggression from China, mind games from China, backstabbing from China, and the politics has never really stopped. Are we about to see, perhaps beyond just the Twitter trolling, Padmaja, some kind of a political unity when it comes to China? Because let's be very clear about one thing. China is watching the Congress party say, hey, look at you handshaking with Xi Jinping just a few months after Operation Sindoor. What about all the martyrs of the Galwan clash? Will that politics actually die down, or will it actually spoil what is the possibility of a new relationship between the two questions? And why really is the opposition unhappy with the Modi-Xi handshake? I don't want to call it Dosti or friendship, but a handshake really at this point of time is the question to ask.
Let's listen to a few of the reactions that we've heard through today, coming in largely from the Congress, but other opposition leaders as well.
चीन ऑलरेडी कह चुका है कि ड्रैगन एंड एलिफेंट का टैंगो होगा। तो भाई, अगर कोई देश हमसे अच्छे रिश्ते बनाना चाहता है, मजबूत रिश्ते बनाना चाहता है, तो भारत तो हमेशा शांति और मित्रता का पक्षधर रहा है। हमें क्या दिक्कत हो सकती है? हम अपने हितों के लिए सबसे चाहते हैं कि मित्रता अच्छी हो। यही प्रधानमंत्री का उद्देश्य है।
अब जिस प्रकार की घोषणाएं दोनों नेताओं के द्वारा हुई हैं, वो उत्साह इस बात का पैदा करता है कि विश्व में एक नया ऑर्डर विकसित हो सकता है, क्योंकि चीन और भारत दोनों बड़े देश हैं और एशिया में दोनों का अपना महत्व है। इसलिए ग्लोबल पॉलिटिक्स में दोनों की अपनी एक भूमिका है, और यदि दोनों आपस में समन्वय के साथ काम करते हैं तो उसका सकारात्मक परिणाम देखने को मिलेगा। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बहुत स्पष्ट सारी बातें कही हैं कि वो म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट, म्यूचुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग और म्यूचुअल सावधानी के साथ चीज़ों को आगे बढ़ाया जाएगा।
माय डियर फ्रेंड डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के बाद अब माय डियर फ्रेंड जी जिनपिंग हो गए इनके। अब हाथी पे चढ़ के मोदी जी थोड़े दिन घूमेंगे, फिर देखते हैं क्या होता है। पहले ही बताइए, क्या गलवान का न्याय मिला? क्या अप्रैल 2020 का जो स्टेटस को एंटी था वो फिर से स्थापित हुआ है? क्या हमारी सेनाएं, हमारे सुरक्षा बल वहां गश्त लगा पा रहे हैं जहां अप्रैल 2020 से पहले लगा पाते थे? इन सब का जवाब प्रधानमंत्री लेकर आएंगे या नहीं आएंगे? दोस्त बदलते रहते हैं, फिर दिल टूट जाता है, फिर नए दोस्त ढूंढते हैं।
हमारी शुभकामनाएं हैं मोदी जी को। भारत चीन के पारस्परिक हितों पर ज्यादा से ज्यादा भारत के हितों की बात करें, परंतु पिछला विगत इतिहास देखते हुए उन्हें सावधान रहने की जरूरत है। मोदी जी को जल्दबाजी में जो कदम उठाते हैं वो न उठाएं और भारत के हितों के लिए बात करें, समझौता करें। ये नहीं कि अमेरिका से झटका मिला है तो चीन की तरफ कुछ ज्यादा ही झुक जाएं। चीन बहुत विश्वसनीय कभी नहीं रहा है, पर हमें एक पड़ोसी है, पड़ोसी नहीं बदल सकते, तो हमें पड़ोसी से अच्छे संबंध बन सके, इसके लिए हमारी शुभकामनाएं और वो ख्याल रखें।
All right, joining us today on this broadcast, Nikhil Jain and Sanjay Jha, both political analysts, and Dr. Ajay Alok, national spokesperson of the BJP. Nikhil Jain, I first want to start by asking you, when China was aggressive, you had a problem then. Today, the Chinese president is saying that both of us should be friends, it's in our mutual interest, and you're again unhappy. What would be a perfect scenario for you?
Padmaja, a perfect scenario would be one where the Prime Minister of India shows independence in his foreign policy strategy, where foreign policy strategy is consistent, where I'm not hearing statements like China ko laal aankh dikhaunga aaj, and then 3 days later, 3 months later, I'm seeing my Prime Minister playing on the swings with the Chinese president. I need to see consistency. It can't be that one day I am having my Prime Minister campaign for President Donald Trump.
But the circumstances are not consistent. How can you have a consistent stand if the person on the other side is not consistent? Are you suggesting that he should continue to be on a swing with the person when he executes Galwan? It can't happen, right? When circumstances change, your response changes.
Absolutely, and that is why these sort of jingoistic, hyper over nationalistic replies and the kind of political discourse that happens in the country is wrong. You look at the BJP until 2 months ago, the kind of targeting that they were doing of the Congress party for the past incidents of terror and how the Congress party did not act in the appropriate manner and this and that. That is the problem. You need to have a fair public discourse. Let's not forget that in 2014, the Prime Minister's rise to power came with the fact that...
Nikhil, this seems to be nitpicking to me. And we invited the Congress to be Congress to be part of this debate. They've declined, which is representative of a larger sort of political hypocrisy, because they're saying all these different things, and you can see on our screen all those comments that are being made about the Modi-Xi handshake, but they're refusing to be actually part of the debate. But Sanjay, I want to bring you in on this. It's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, but this is a foreign policy that is very much in flux. Circumstances, like Padmaja just said, have changed quite rapidly in the last couple of weeks, especially with Trump. It's easy to take these little snipes, but it seems like the Congress is choosing quick point scoring on social media rather than a substantive sort of discussion and a substantive critique. And we know that there is more than enough room for critique on this issue. But why the cheap kind of trolling and point scoring rather than a proper discussion on this, Sanjay?
Yeah. Shiv, good evening to you and to Padmaja on a Sunday. That's pretty rare. And to my two fellow panelists, Ajay as well as Nikhil. I think foreign policy is a nuanced subject, and I don't think we should trivialize that. So let me tell you my perspective very honestly. I think India is between a rock and a hard place. That's a ideal probably summation of where we are. And I tell you the reason why is, one, obviously, as we all know, the whole Donald Trump and Narendra Modi fiasco, and that frankly corners us greatly. And on the other hand, now we have to deal with China and Russia, etc., simply because I think at the end of the day, I think we have limited elbow room. But then, as we all know, that China has been a very formidable ally of Pakistan. So you really have a situation today that India is finding itself somewhere trying to we have not been able to figure out Donald Trump's rather irrational, unpredictable ways.
But we held our own, Sanjay. Sorry to interrupt, but we held our own as far as Trump is concerned. You know, what he was trying to do was to impinge on India's own autonomy, you know, our sovereignty as far as our decision making is concerned. India has held our own. So when you call it a fiasco, the truth of the matter is it may have put us between a rock and a hard place as far as China and Russia is concerned. But the truth of the matter is India has held its own as far as Trump is concerned. We didn't do what he wanted.
Shiv, I'll tell you something here. I think, the truth is, if you're saying hold onto it on your own, it's coming at a great cost. Just think about it rationally for a moment, right? You know it. You're a seasoned person who knows defense affairs, as does Padmaja. Pakistan, during Operation Sindoor, literally fought a proxy war with China, shooting from behind its shoulders in terms of defense and intelligence sharing. Now, India has very limited options. Now, here is the point that I wish to make. I'm not going to make this political, maybe at least not at the beginning, because I'll tell you the problem and the risk we have, and we need to recognize that, okay?
That's very generous of you, although I have to say that the Congress has officially made it political about 6 hours back. It's very generous of you to not make it political in the beginning, but let me read out what the Congress has been saying, and Dr. Ajay Alok can come in. Dr. Ajay Alok, the Congress tweeted 7 hours ago, चीन ने गलवान घाटी में हमारे 20 जाबाज सैनिकों की जान ले ली. ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के वक्त चीन खुलकर पाकिस्तान का साथ दे रहा था. द सेम पॉइंट दैट संजय झा इज मेकिंग. चीन ने पाकिस्तान को लाइव अपडेट दिए. चीन की नापाक हरकतों पर नरेंद्र मोदी ने सख्त कदम उठाया. मुस्कुराते हुए चीन के राष्ट्रपति से हाथ मिलाया. दैट इज China stabbed us in the back during Operation Sindoor, and you have rewarded them by shaking Xi Jinping's hand. This is the great betrayal, says the Congress.
I don't understand one thing. Being an Indian, why do we always need to have trumpet sometime Pakistan, sometime China? China ne Galwan mein base maar diye. In the hand conflict, what happened in Galwan, what Indian soldiers did to Chinese, this Congress cannot mention. This is the problem. Now they are trumpeting Chinese. They will say during Operation Sindoor, hamare Rafale kitne gire. You never talked of your own victory. Rather, you keep on pinning out things which never happened actually. Our 20 soldiers, they martyred, but what they did was commendable in Galwan, which everybody acknowledges. But no, Congress party won't see that. This is a pure sheer negativity which cannot be held at all. And by the way, don't mind if you don't have a Congress, official Congress fellow. You have just two great Congress fellows sitting here who are better than most of the spokesperson there. Anyway, we are not discussing
that
here.
That is true, actually. That is true.
Yeah, I acknowledge Sanjay. I've been having arguments with him for the last 12 years. He's one of the best, undoubtedly. But his mindset is different. That is the problem. He understands that he's speaking lies, but he has to. Anyway, let's not get into it. My point is, we are not talking here in terms of school ki ladai. Ek se ladai hogi to dusre se dosti karna. This is not what you call diplomacy. Just imagine a situation that this tariff wouldn't have come through. We would have had a relation with the US as usual, what we used to have. And then this SCO would have happened. And then again, Xi Jinping would have said that India is a vital
but on the limited point of punishing China, they have a very pointed question today.
As far as
did
Galwan is
you
concerned,
punish China for Galwan? Isn't this salt on the wounds of those who lost their loved ones in Galwan when you see the Prime Minister shaking Xi Jinping's hand? That is their pointed charge at you.
This is absolutely foolish to think like. In diplomacy, we have to shake hands and we have to do all the things necessary to keep our country's interests floating. Why did Donald Trump just slap us with the tariff? Because he's looking after his American interests. What is our interest? We won't allow Donald Trump to enter in our country in the sectors of agriculture, in the sectors of fishery. We won't allow that.
Also,
we have to keep our sovereignty intact.
Also, you know,
the decision on us.
Ajay Alok, and this is for all three of you, and Sanjay and Nikhil, I'll ask you guys to jump in on this. If we have to zoom in just a little bit further, Padmaja, on the specific issue of Galwan, we're seeing all these comments on, 20 Indian martyrs, who's going to answer for them, why are we shaking hands with the country that killed our people? I actually agree with Dr. Ajay Alok when he says, how come nobody, mentions or acknowledges what India did in Galwan? Has the Congress even once acknowledged how many? I find it distasteful to talk about soldiers' deaths because soldiers are doing the jobs that politicians cannot achieve. But more than 40 Chinese persons died. I've written it in my book. The book was released by the 3 chiefs. It's official. How come the Congress never talks about how the Indian army, in one of the bravest against all odds stand in Galwan, fought them on their side of the line of actual control, and there were a huge number of casualties on the Chinese side? Why has Galwan become this narrative point where 20 Indians died and makes it seem like we were completely vanquished in Galwan? Nikhil, it is incredible how for whatever political point scoring purposes, the Congress has made Galwan to be some kind of a defeat circumstance as far as India is concerned, when the opposite is true. It's shameful.
No, Shiv, I don't think that the Congress has ever tried to paint the Galwan conflict.
So then why don't they post the pictures? Why don't the Congress spokesperson post pictures of the graveyards of the Chinese soldiers? I would find that very distasteful myself, but why don't they do that when they post pictures of Indian soldiers?
And can I add to that, when you say that the Congress has never politicized it, as a matter of fact, Rahul Gandhi's case went to court where he said कि हमारे soldiers वहाँ border पर पिट रहे हैं. This actually went to court. So your assertion that it was never politicized is actually not true at all.
No, that's not what I said, Padma, to be clear. I never said that the Congress party has never politicized it. What I'm trying to say is that the Congress party has time and again raised the issue that this particular conflict, this particular skirmish that happened between the Chinese soldiers and the Indian soldiers, first of all, according to a lot of independent reports, was not on the Chinese side of the LSE. Secondly, our soldiers did die. Thirdly, our soldiers did perform very bravely and the Chinese soldiers were killed. But the fact of the matter is that China was the aggressor in the matter. And when the Prime Minister of India was asked about this, the fact that the Chinese had crossed the LOC and attacked our soldiers. Chinese were the aggressors here. Our soldiers performed better, but the Chinese were the aggressors. When the Prime Minister was asked about this and the land that was enclosed, the Prime Minister said, "Na koi aaya hai, na koi aayega."
Nikhil, first of all, I want to call a spade a little bit over here, because I'm a little tired of this tutu meme nonsense over China when there should be political unity. The Depsang incursion that happened under the Congress-led UPA government was one of the biggest territorial incursions on the Indian side, in the history of post-1962 India-China relations, and we have seen the engagement that happened, and I agree with that engagement. I agree with the engagement that happened between the Congress leadership and China post-Depsang, because that is what countries do. Countries cannot be persistently at war. There is supposed to be diplomacy to actually try and wind things down. But this kind of silly nitpicking that's happening, Rajat Sethi, welcome. Between the two sides,
can I please complete my point? 20 seconds. Can I please complete my point?
I'll tell you why it is silly. Because
20 seconds to complete my point.
I'll tell you why, Nikhil. It is a ridiculous point according to me, and I'm actually upset about this. It is because after Galwan, there has been a standoff where division-level strength of forces from the Indian side have been deployed there, and it is the only territorial aggression by China where China has not been able to achieve those objectives. Do we know this? We're painting Galwan as some kind of a thing where India has been humiliated by the Chinese. The opposite is true. Do we even know that?
Shiv, can I please respond and complete my point?
Very quickly, then Rajat.
Yes. The Congress party has always raised questions about the way the Prime Minister has acted about it, not the forces. For the Prime Minister to come and say, "Na koi aaya hai, na koi aaya tha, na ek inch bhumi li gayi hai," and then the
Nikhil
Chinese
Jain,
media
again, this is very facetious argument. You're saying we're talking about the way the Prime Minister has acted. The Prime Minister is acting for the government of India, and the armed forces are also acting for the country India. They are not acting in their individual capacity. But Rajat Sethi, when we talk about the post-Galwan scenario, the question being raised is just a second. He's just joined. I think he should also.
10 seconds.
Only 10 seconds, and I need to go to Rajat Sethi. Yes.
10 seconds. When the Congress government was engaging with China, what did Prime Minister Modi, while he was in opposition, do? China ko main laal aankh dikha deta.
So you're saying the Congress is the same then? Everything that you say is bad about the BJP. The Congress is the same. You're admitting that then? Then let's admit that and say that they're the same.
what I'm saying is that the Prime Minister is a very big hypocrite when it comes to foreign policy and defense policy.
But that wasn't the question at all. I think the question was very specific about whether you think vis-a-vis China, the Congress and the BJP government have acted the same.